What's up, my steamy little spotted dicks, which are steamed cakes traditionally made with a whole lot of raisins. And as you guys know, raisins are basically dried fruit, so it totally fits within our fruit dessert or pastry parameters. Regardless, today on The Daily Grind, we're going to be taking a look at all of the Railjack Mark III weapons, as well as what a Mark III Railjack looks like. Now, for those of you guys who probably can't tell, my voice has given out on me because it's about 3:30 in the morning. Legitimately, I tried to record this video a little bit earlier, but the format was all over the place, and my brain is a little bit fried, so pardon me if I sound crazy. I've just been really enjoying the Railjack gameplay, which is technically just advanced Arcwing. But as you can see, I've been making a lot of progress on my Railjack. In fact, let's take a look at the bare grid in itself. A lot of these are ranked all the way up, and I'm getting pretty close to kind of closing all of it out. Now, what I wanted to go ahead and talk about are not the avionics, at least not yet. I wanted to jump into components and armaments, because that's going to be our big focus for today. Now, there is something that's being said about both components and armaments that are not quite accurate, at least from what I've seen so far, is a lot of people are saying that the statistics that you find on them are completely randomized. And that's true for components, but it's not true for armaments. So let's go ahead and take a look at things like the shield array, the reactor, and the engines. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the shield array dictates the shield capacity as well as the regeneration delay. Now, at Mark III, they actually get bonus attributes. So as you can see right here with this VDAR shield array Mark III, we have 738 shield capacity, which is nice and hefty, and just a slight bonus to the shield regeneration delay. However, the interesting effect on this one is you actually get 3% shield regeneration per second, and then you redirect 50% energy to shields with every kill. So that is definitely nice if you want to try to keep your shields restored. However, as you can see, I have several different shield arrays from the Zekti brand. Now, this one's got 351 shield capacity, this one's got 247 shield capacity, this one's got 209. And all of these have this interesting effect of 10-0 on board the Railjack get 10% boost to shields. So that bonus is consistent all the way through. However, another interesting one is we have another shield array, Mark III, which is a lower shield capacity, so only 117. It's got a small shield regeneration delay of 2.89 seconds, but the effect on it is completely different. You get a higher shield regeneration per second, but Railjack damage is increased by 25% when shields are depleted. So as you can see, just from this lineup in and of itself, we have completely different variables when it comes to the shield amounts, as well as the shield delays, and there's even differences in effects, even within the same brand. So there is definitely a lot of randomization in here. It's basically like the Riven system, but I'm assuming that different manufacturers are going to have different weights. Like VDAR has higher shields overall, but lower shield regeneration delay. I was right. Listen, it's late, you're gonna have to pardon me. So as you can see right there, we have different variations in that. So it's hard to kind of give you guys an overall review of these items, but as you can see, I have a Zekti Engines Mark III, and then we have an engine speed of 30.2, and then an engine boost speed multiplier, and then we have a shield regeneration is 50% faster when the boost meter is recharging. So as you can see, this right here is the exact same thing, but it's got all of its values increased just a little bit. Now, before we move on, I did want to go ahead and talk about that, because what you can actually do with one of these engines or one of these things that you've built is you can go ahead and scrap them for Dirac, and anything that you spent on them will be refunded to you. But from what I've noticed, it's only like half the amount that you spent on them. So it's a little bit of a feels bad moment, because you're still gonna have to grind out the other half to replace it with your upgrade. Now, the other thing that I wanted to go ahead and point out here is there's a couple different ways to create these items. Is you can actually repair, and you'll get all of the repair amounts, and then you'll have to go ahead, contribute all, and then wait for a 12-hour mark to do that. because it's going to take time to repair, or you can go ahead and use something called a rush repair drone, and basically it rushes the whole recovery of it and basically makes it so that you don't have to pay any of the cost for the components whatsoever. I did that for a lot of the items that you're going to see today, and that's mainly because of the fact that I wanted to go ahead and toss it in a video for you guys. So that's how you create all of that. And then here are the reactors. So the reactors are going to take a look at your avionics capacity and your flux capacity. Flux capacity is for basically the energy of your ship. So as you can see right here, I have a Lavana Reactor Mark III, and this one has a 49 avionics capacity, 180 flux capacity, but the bonus on here is you get 50% damage increase for 5 seconds after being launched from the slingshot. Absolutely love it. I've been using the slingshot a whole lot, and one of the cool things that I don't know if anybody's mentioned yet, but you can actually mount the slingshot from outside the ship, so you can be in your arc wing, get onto the back of your ship, and slingshot yourself back out. I've been doing that a ton, and it's a lot of fun. So Lavan is a different manufacturer than Zekti, and I was actually really happy to get this because the Zekti reactors are just a little bit off. So as you can see right here, we have 49 avionics capacity and 180 flux capacity. But here we have 48 avionics capacity, so one less, but they have a whole lot more flux capacity. However, the effect on them is completely different. So you have a 50% chance to extinguish a new fire after 5 seconds. So higher flux capacity, different effect. Interestingly enough, we have another Zekti reactor over here, which is 39 avionics capacity, so that's 10 less than the one that well, actually technically 9 less from here, or 11 less? Math is not my strong suit right now, but definitely 10 less from the Lavan, and a slightly lower flux capacity than over here. But the effect is 10% chance that a minor breach will repair automatically after 10 seconds. Now, I'm not sure if there's another part of that, because as you can see in the text, it looks like there's some weird placeholder stuff that does not quite fit, so I'm sure it's just going to be kind of worked down into the breaches, but I don't think it's going to double. So for me personally, I ended up going with a different manufacturer this time around because I like the effect better. Now, with that all stated, let's go ahead and take a quick look at armaments, and then we'll jump into showing off what each of the guns do. So real quick, as you can see right here, we have got the Zekti APOC MK-3. Now, as you can see, this one has 118 for particle and 276 for plasma, and it's got 10% for status and 30% for critical chance, right? Now let's go ahead and take a look at these APOC Mark 1. So again, 118, 276, and then it's got 30% critical chance and 10% status chance. And now we've got another Zekti. So as you can see right here, this is, again, 10% status chance, 30% critical chance, 118 for particle, and 276 for plasma. Now, all of these ones are basically the exact same. And I just wanted to make that a point because in the components, they have a lot of randomized stats. These ones are all consistent, and I've been seeing that 100% of the time with all of the different guns. So as you can see right here, we have a Carcinox, and if I go to another Carcinox right here, so the original one that we have is 55-167. Let's just boil it down to that. Again, this one is 55-167. Oh, you can't see that number. Can you see it now? No, you still can't see it. But believe me, it says 55-167. It's basically just the same thing for your guns over and over and over again, which, to be honest with you, is kind of nice. So let's actually go ahead, swap these out real quick because I wanted to show you my favorites of favorites, which is the Cryophon up on the pilot seat, and then the Pulsar on the, the gunner seat. And then we'll toss the classic Tycho Seeker for our Ordnance. So let's take a look at the stats of these real quick so that you guys have a bit of an idea of what we're running into. And you can see with the Cryophon, this one has 20% critical chance, it has 45% status chance, and it deals frost damage. It also has a little bit of fall off on there, but as you can see, this has a lot. This is a chunker. This deals a lot of chunker, and the frost status effect on it basically ends up freezing the engines of your enemies, and it makes them kind of like stop, but they still have momentum. So basically, you know, they kind of like get frozen, but they keep going in whatever direction. I'm making it come at me. I don't know why it's like aimed at my face, but you know what I mean? They like will come to a slow stop after they've been frozen. Now, when it comes to our gunner side, we have the Zekti Pulsar. Love these ones so much. As you can see right here, this one's got 13% critical chance, it's got 29% status chance, it is a burst, and it's a mix of plasma and ionic. Now, if I remember correctly, plasma will end up dealing or weakening an enemy target so that you can consistently hit them and they'll take more damage over time. Not over time, but, you know, take more damage with consecutive shots. And then ionic is going to be the electricity equivalent, which basically fries enemies' engines. So it makes them fly kind of sort of weird. They're like disoriented a little bit, which is very, very handy. Now, interestingly enough, when it comes to all of the ordnance, there doesn't seem to be any of these blueprints found out in the wild. They all seem to be researched from your clan, so make sure your clan is on that research. But as you can see here, this is the Tycho. This one is a tracking missile, and it has a pretty large blast damage, which is weird because blast isn't supposed to exist out in outer space. There's nothing from that, but it does have a critical chance of 20%. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that looks out in the wild. Well, not really out in the wild. We're just going to be on free flight mode. All right, so kicking things off with the piloting guns, we have the Cryophon, and like I was saying earlier, it's like an archoplasmor blast. So basically you're blasting out this kind of like burst of energy. It can hit multiple enemies at a time, and it looks like it penetrates. When I'm flying around in my Arcwing, it definitely looks like it hits. It'll like go through multiple targets at once. Now the reason I say this is because I usually have someone else pilot my ship, but let me go ahead and actually fire this till it burns out. And do keep in mind that in my Avionics, I do have maxed out versions of the basically the store amounts of ammo that you can have. So I'm gonna go fire this off. So you get 5 shots, and you can hear that beeping. That beeping basically says that I've overheated my gun. So you've got 5 shots to overheat. So the reason that I like the cryo guns up front, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the stats of this at the end of the video, is because I love me some particle ram. I love me some particle ram. So like I was saying, the cold damage or the frost damage that they have will end up kind of like CCing enemies a little bit. But particle ram, oh no, I fired the missile. Ignore that. That's for later. But this is particle ram. And as you can see, it has this big effect at the front of the ship, and you can fire it outwards. So what you want to do is you want to freeze a whole bunch of enemies in front of you, then fire off your particle ram. It's so freaking fun, and that's why I quite enjoy having the Cryophon right up front. Now, when it comes to the side guns, these are hands down my favorite. So these are the Pulsars, and they're hit scan. Now, as many of you guys know, a lot of the Arcwing weapons used to be hit scan. However, they've been converted into projectiles because DE is cruel, and they want us to just hate our lives. But these are the only hit scan guns that we currently have. They look like little lightning bolts. I'm going to go ahead and burn them out real quick. So that's how many shots you can get off when you have everything upgraded a little bit. Now, this deals a decent amount of damage. It's definitely not the highest amount of damage out there. However, it's really good at striking targets, and if you get the status chance off on them, that kind of fries their engines. Basically, they're kind of like sitting ducks. They're still kind of like wobbly, and you'll still have to like track them, but legitimately, it makes them much easier to hit. So I'm definitely a big fan of these guns. This is the #1 thing that I want to sign off on. Then, as you saw earlier, we have our Tycho missile. and that one is a big tracking missile. But if we're gonna talk missiles, I kind of love, I think it's called Swarm Volley or Missile Volley, something along those lines. I figured I showed you Particle Ram. Why not go ahead and show off this baby? It's kind of glorious. Oh, just wait for it. Oh my god, it makes, and if you see this from outside the ship, it's even more freaking pretty. And all of those track enemies. So listen, it's a good day in the neighborhood to be alive. Let's go ahead and move into our next set of weapons. Okay, so for our next batch of weapons, we have the APOC Mark III at our pilot seat, we have the Carcinox over at our gunners, and then we have the Melody as our ordnance. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these stats real quick. Now, as you can see, the APOC has a high critical chance sitting at 30%, as well as a critical multiplier of 2 times. It's got a status chance of only 10%, which is kind of sad, and then it's got the particle and plasma as its damage types. Now, I did misspeak when it came to the pulsar. That one has a plasma damage type, and it doesn't actually weaken the enemy to consecutive shots. That's actually going to be the particle type. Plasma actually acts similarly to, like, I guess you would say magnetic or viral, where it punctures holes into the armor/shields of the enemy ship, decreasing the overall value. So it's kind of like a little bit of both, but particle is going to be the one that tears holes into the hull of the enemy ship, allowing players to deal increased damage. So it basically weakens that target. So that one is really, really good for that. So I misspoke on the other one, but now I went ahead and cleared that up. Moving along, we have the Carcinox. So as you can see right here, this one is 13% critical chance, 2 times critical multiplier. It's got a 26% status chance, which is very, very sexy. And then its damage types are plasma and chem. Again, plasma is going to be the one that reduces the armor as well as the shields. And then we also have, I guess, if you're reducing armor, it's more like corrosive than it is like viral. Sorry. Listen, it's like almost 4 a.m. now, all right? And then chem is going to be confuses the enemy pilot. Enemy will target anyone around them. So basically it's like radiation. Now, when it comes to the Melody, let's take a look at the stats on this one real quick. As you can see right here, it's got a whole lot of blast damage. The only thing that I have to think off of the top of my head is that this is cumulative because it fires off a volley of rockets. It's not just like a single rocket, it's got like a bunch of them. Just keep in mind these ones are dumbfire rockets and they do not have any tracking. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this is in mission. Alrighty, so here are the APOC. It is very straightforward. It feels like a standard kind of like auto gun. And as you could hear, I fired that up until it overheated. Let's do that one more time. Now, I feel like the projectile flight speed on this one isn't terrible, but it's definitely not the best of the bunch. And one other thing that I did want to make note of for those of you guys who are a little bit newer to this style of weapon, or at least this style of combat, what you'll actually notice is when enemies are flying at you and they have their little like targeting thing, you'll notice that there's a little plus in front of them. Sometimes you're going to want to aim for that plus because that's kind of like a little bit of an assist, letting you know where your or how long it's going to take from your projectile to hit that target, like where their paths are going to meet. It's kind of called a leading shot. So that way, just aim for the little pluses, the little white pluses that you see in front of them, so that you could lead your target with these projectiles. So one more time, this is the APOC. Now let's go ahead and move on to our gunner seats. So we can take a look at a very big favorite. A lot of people really, really like this one. This one is the Carcinox. So as you can see right here, it's really, really fast. Its fire rate is super fast, and that's when it burns out. You actually get a whole lot of shots when it comes to this. And again, a lot of people really like it for its fast flight speed, and you get a lot of shots off, as you can see. I mean, it's really, really quick, and you can kind of fire them in these bursts. So this is definitely one to look out for. Everybody that I've talked to has been like, listen, you got to try the Carcinox. I was like, it's not hit scan. I'm going to take the hit scan weapon instead. But listen, if you don't mind leading your target, this can actually be a really good weapon. I, in fact, feel like it deals more damage than the 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 pulse one. But again, for me, like, the only way you're going to deal damage is if you're hitting your target. And I'm not the greatest at leading. Plus, I would rather be in my Archwing anyway. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Ordnance real quick. I want to go ahead and zoom in on the firing of this because this is the Melati. So this is a bunch of dumbfire rockets. No, what is it called? No tracking, but you can see it's like a little cloud. Little cloud of them. You see the little flurry of them like flying out into the universe. So if you've got a lot of enemies in front of you, it's a pretty decent ordnance to use if they're all clustered. You're bound to hit something because it's a fairly tight cluster of missiles. Still not my favorite. I'd rather prefer tracking, but there is one more that I have never gotten to fire off quite yet. So I'm really curious to see it, and we'll do that in the next round. And for our last batch of weapons, we have the Photor Mark III over on our piloting seats. Now, we don't have anything on our gunner because technically there's no other weapon style to show off, at least not at the moment. And then our ordnance is going to be the Galveric, and I've never fired this one off before, so I'm really curious as to how it works. But the Photor, I kind of sort of like. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats real quick. This is 2 focused beams that instantly sear enemy ships, often engulfing them in flame. It's a laser beam. Now, as you can see right here, the critical chance is 18%. It has a 2x critical multiplier. This one does have a bit of fall off on it, and its status chance is 18% as well. Now, this one is also plasma, so it's going to reduce enemy defenses like shields and armor. And then it's got the incendiary effect, which clearly is going to deal damage over time, right? Rounds burn through the hull of the ship, dealing damage over time. Yes, so that's exactly what that is. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our ordnance real quick. This one sounds really interesting. Discharges a massive stream of incendiary energy, latching and frying up to 3 enemy vessels. Now, of course, I'm not going to have enemy vessels out there to try it out on, but it's going to be an interesting sight at the least. Oh, this is another fiery one. It's another laser one, of course. So as you can see right here, no critical chance, 10% status chance, and it's got incendiary damage on it. I wonder how this is going to work, if it's going to be like a hold, but I guess we'll find out when we jump on ship. Okay, so if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I already forgot the name of this weapon, but it's the laser one. And as you can see right here, it's a laser beam, and I'm going to shoot it off until full. Then there's our little dinking noise saying that I've overheated it. I've tried it, and as fun as it seems, I don't necessarily love it, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It was just like a little bit of fun, and it looks kind of cool because you're literally lasering things out in space. But, you know, it does have a nice damage overtime effect, and it will reduce enemies' defenses. So that's kind of nice. Actually, why don't I just stay here to go ahead and fire off our ordnance? Oh wait, yes, there it goes. So this one is going to be the laser beam one, the Galveric, I believe. See, that name I remember. But as you can see right here, let's go ahead and fire it off. I'm not sure what happens. Is that all? So it's just like a little, let's... Ooh! So it's got some like gas to it. It'll like last for a while, and I'm sure it probably deals like damage over time or something along those lines, as well as you're hitting that enemy with that beam. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of tracking with it because clearly it's got to jump to other enemies. But overall, I don't know. I still think that I might end up liking the Tycho Seeker the best. Regardless, let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. Which has been your favorite weapons to use so far? Okay, so back at the docks, I wanted to go ahead and close things out by showing you some of the avionics, more specifically the battle avionics and maybe the tactical ones that we've got so far, mainly because of the fact that these are the only ones I've been able to get my hands on. I've been playing a ton, and all I've seen for the battle ones are Particle Ram as well as Seeker Volley. Now, just to remind you, my grid for the 2 battle ones, they are all maxed, and then the tactical, I have 2 into these first 2 and nothing into the last one. So let's go ahead and take a look at a fully maxed out Particle Ram. This one deals 1,500 damage per second. Deactivate to launch the ram outwards for 6 seconds. So I believe that's a pretty nice chunk of damage when these enemies are sitting in front of you. Because that's damage per second. Every time that they're sitting in that big field in front of you, they're just going to be taking more and more damage. And you can hold that out there for a pretty good long while. In fact, we've seen it, I don't want to say it, you can hold it out for quite some time. I'm just going to leave it at that. And then Seeker Volley. This is just super duper beautiful. For some reason, it doesn't give us any kind of stats on it. But as you can see right here, it's 50 homing missiles when you finally do max it out. It does cost a lot on your Avionics because it's literally 10, and that's a big old chunk. Now, when it comes to the tactical, you get fire suppression, which is extinguish 6 fires, and its cooldown is 300 seconds. Now, when they say fires, they don't necessarily mean just fires. I've seen it work on electrical issues as well as fires too. I can't remember it affects small hull breaches, but I definitely know it does electrical as well. Then we have Breach Quanta. And keep in mind, this isn't on a fully maxed grid. It's only a 2-point grid. Now, when we do the Breach Quanta, it is temporarily stall hull breaches for 40 seconds. Cooldown, again, is 300 seconds. So if you're in a dilly of a pickle and you need to craft something real quick, you can go ahead and kind of postpone that hull breach real fast for an additional 40 seconds, which is definitely nice because I believe hull breaches are like 60 seconds to respond to. And last but not least, we have Battle Forge, which is reduce Forge cooldown by 30 seconds, and then the cooldown on this is 480 seconds. This, of course, is not leveled up in any way, shape, or form. So basically, that is what our Railjacks look like when they're leveled up. I'll actually go ahead and hover over some of these other mods that I've got equipped as well. As you can see, this is the only one that I haven't leveled all the way up when it comes to the grid for that, so just keep that in mind when you're taking a look at the values on these things. But so far, I've been having a pretty damn good time with Railjack. It's really, really fun, but I'm really just kind of going through and basically trying to get the pick of the litter on everything that I need, because literally, when it comes to like the Railjack itself, I'm still not 100% convinced. It needs some more fine tuning because, like, depending on what you're going up against, legitimately, you're gonna be coming up against a lot of hull breaches and a lot of attacks on your ship. Now, the thing about that is there's ways to play it solo by like leaving your Railjack behind and basically going out in Arcwing. But I've been playing on stream in, I don't want to say organized groups, but I do want to say they're like groups of people who are my viewers. And I'm like, listen, if you're my viewer, you kind of know how I roll. I'm like, listen, if I tell you to back the ship off, they'll end up backing the ship off. Or if I'm like, listen, play with the ship as much as you like, just don't fucking wreck it. And they're usually pretty good about kind of like following those orders. And I'm like, but beyond that, I kind of let them do whatever the hell they want to / need to do with the ship, as long as they're keeping it alive. So I've witnessed a lot of different like fighting types where they'll actually put the ship in like fucking harm's way, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're dying every 30 seconds, be careful. And then there's some people that'll hang all the way back. Now, when it comes to like the battle ones, now that we've made our ship more mobile, it makes it a little bit harder to hit. However, it does definitely kind of like split out the battle areas. It's a little bit of a cluster at the moment. However, I'm finding it to be a very fun cluster. So now that you've seen all of the stats and all of these things laid out in front of you, let me know down in the comments below how you feel about everything you've seen thus far. I know that some people are having very, very buggy experiences and are not having the greatest time. I'm sure that DE will iron all of that out. Just make sure that you are submitting your bugs, especially when you see them in the forums. I know that people are, there are some DE employees that have stopped off in my stream and kind of seen some things and taken notes of certain issues that occur. But for me, overall, I haven't really run into anything too bad. I've literally had just one terrible mission. Just one. So far, just one. I've had a couple glitches here and there, but beyond that, everything has been fine and dandy. So that about does it for me for now. I've been rambling for so long, and I think that I'm about to lose my voice, which is shitty because I have a stream in a few hours. So be sure to check me out on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time over at twitch.tv/agayGuyPlays. And even though it is now almost 4:30 in the morning, we're still gonna make those times. So I hope to see you guys there, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.